anything worthwhile doing in life is going to take hard work, dedication, and it's not going to be a quick fix. And obesity is 100% like that. If you are obese right now, you need to get used to the fact that it's probably going to be an uphill battle the rest of your life. And it's probably, even if you accomplish getting lean and staying lean and reaching your goal weight, it's always going to be something that you have to think about and pay attention to. It's never just going to completely disappear. You are not going to go back to the you of the olden days, eating whatever, whenever, wherever. You're not going to go back to that. So you need to just realize that you are now a new person, and that helps too, right? Have a new identity.
What's up, my friend, and welcome back to the Legendary Life Podcast. I'm health expert Ted Rice, coach to entrepreneurs, executives, and other high-performing professionals. Now, what we do here at the Legendary Life Podcast is we break down science-based information on how to lose fat, prevent disease, and live a longer, healthier, legendary life. Today on the show, I have Jason Helmes. Now, Jason is a fitness coach with over 18 years of experience and more than 7,000 coaching clients. And here's a cool story. He used to be a middle school teacher, but turned into a fitness coach. And he also has a really cool story of his own personal transformation. He used to weigh 300 pounds at 6'8". He's a huge dude, even at his leanest right now. And after trying different miraculous diets and perfect exercise plans that he read about on the internet, like so many of us, he realized that none of these solutions actually worked for him. So he started to study the scientific research, kind of like how I did. In fact, there's so many parallels between Jason's story and mine. And he ended up developing his own strategies, lost all the weight, got into great shape, and started helping others with his methods. Now, what I love about Jason is that he likes to debunk the nutrition myths on the internet, kind of like I do. He's the real deal, and he sees fitness not only as a way to look and feel better, but as a portal for self-improvement on all levels. In other words, if we're able to change our health, take control of our health, it means that we can improve our relationships with our family, our friends, our children. We can improve our careers or our businesses. And I'm with him 100% on that, as you know if you've been listening to the show. So without further ado, let's step into this conversation with Jason Helmes. Jason Helmes, what is up? And welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you on today. And we are both coaches. So I know it's going to be, it's already been an interesting conversation with you because we had to stop our conversation just so we could press record. But just to get the formalities out of the way, really, really excited to have you on and share your expertise, share your experience with the Legendary Life Podcast listeners.
Awesome, Ted. I appreciate you having me on. I've had this date circled on the calendar for a while, brother.
All right. And I think we should just start out like this. So we met on Twitter. We communicated. From what I read from your information and what you read from me, the tweets that I put out there, there's like this, we gravitated toward each other's approaches. That said, and we're both coaches. We both help in the same ways where we help people transform their bodies and get them out of the crazy, the nutrition craziness. That said, I put out a tweet about seed oils. I forget exactly what I said, but it was the type of tweet where, I have that thing in my personality where I don't mind kind of triggering people, right? And I get it back, so don't feel, if you're listening right now, I have to pay for those choices because I have to deal with the aftermath. But you retweeted it and then you ended up deleting it. And we have this, let's talk about that, why that happened, and what it means for someone listening right now who is following people like you and me, or some of the people who you and I maybe don't see eye to eye with. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this was right before you just hit record there. We were having a great conversation and all of a sudden you said, wait, stop. We have to get this thing recorded right now. But yeah, you tweeted, wrong social media. It was something like everyone worries so much about seed oils and getting seed oils in their diet.
but nobody worries about it. And I forget what the second thing was. It was the seed oil.
It was
thing.
air pollution.
Oh,
That's
that was
right.
it. That
air
was
pollution.
Air pollution and how dangerous air pollution is to our society. So I retweeted it. And really one of the first reasons I deleted it is because really the emphasis of the tweet was about air pollution, right? It wasn't really about seed oils. You're trying to bring awareness to air pollution. But no, the reason I deleted it, and I want to make sure, I want to bring, the listeners here through like my full thought process as to why I would retweet something like that and then end up deleting something like that. This corner of Twitter is amazing. Like it really is the self-improvement space of Twitter. Of all the different social media that's out there, I think that this has become just a great place where people are positive, people are welcoming, and really like if you're in there, we're all trying to get better at everything, right? Relationships, health, and wealth. Really, those are like your three main components. Maybe add in spirituality there. So when it comes to specific food group demonization, I despise it. Like I really, really despise specific food group demonization. And what I mean by that is, someone's blaming the entire obesity epidemic and the fact that we're all in terrible shape on one specific thing, right? It's sugar, it's seed oils, it's, PUFAs, it's, whatever, free radicals or whatever the one thing is, right? And there's a million different things that have been demonized, over the course of like nutritional history. But the reason is because I've worked with enough people to see that those little itty bitty minute details really don't matter. They don't matter. And I know me, and I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit. Back when I was trying to lose all the weight and when I was 300 pounds myself, I would do those little like, okay, I'm not going to eat any sugar. And I remember being like, that was one of the first things that I did. I was really into like low carb dogma. And honestly, I was keto before that word keto was even like out into the mainstream. It was like 2010, 2011. And I remember walking around the store and picking up things being like, well, this has 2 grams of sugar in it, so I will put that back now. And thinking about how just absolutely messed up that is. Like what a disordered relationship with food. But I firmly believe that. I believe any amount of sugar, this is going to make me fat. Like, which makes zero sense at all, but we get caught in these echo chambers. So anyways, and the same is true with like a lot of different things. Seed oils, there is a correlation between eating a lot of seed oils and obesity and having health issues, right? That correlation is there, but that's not causal. Anytime calories are controlled, it gets taken, off of things that are even harmful for you. It's not harmful for you in the least. Now, does that mean that I think and be careful, there's always nuance, so I need to make sure to explain the nuance, Does that mean that if you have the option between like an awesome coconut oil or a high quality olive oil, we should choose vegetable oil? No, it doesn't mean that. Obviously, that other stuff is higher quality, but scaring people into thinking I need to avoid these things at all costs. There's a cost part too. Vegetable oil might be $3 or $4 for a big jug, and a high quality olive oil is $30. People might not be able to afford that. So these are all the different things that are like running through my mind off of one little stinking retweet. And then the real reason is I know I got a whole lot of followers that follow me because I got retweeted from somebody else in the Twitter, self-improvement space. It might be someone who always talks about, things like seed oils or talks about sugar in a negative light. And again, I'm not saying that if you reduce your consumption of those things, it wouldn't be an overall net positive benefit. Maybe it would, but still at the exact same time, we need to focus on those big rocks. And I don't want that follower that's in that echo chamber that is running around telling everybody seed oils are giving you bitch tits and lowering your testosterone and making you fat. Like, I don't want that person that's in that echo chamber to see that retweet and unfollow me. Now, but I don't care about an unfollow. I don't want them to unfollow me because I have had dozens of times people have become clients where they used to be in an echo chamber. They used to have this crazy dogma about low carbs or about sugar or about seed oils or about soy or about whatever, right? They had these crazy dogmas in their mind. So that first time I say, hey, I had this client, they did X. Hey, I had this client, they did Y, and Y is a little different than X. I had this client, they did Z. I had this client, and I show them all these different before and after pictures, and I tell them carbs are good. This is good. This is, all these different things. They're totally fine for you. I've had a lot of people, make those realizations simply because I tweet in a positive manner and try to show them the good, beneficial stuff. So anywho, I don't want that person to unfollow me and then possibly not have that experience to break out of that insular thinking, because I think that is a real issue that people face when it comes to nutrition. There is not one thing that is causing obesity, making us unhealthy. It's not sugar, it's not seed oils, it's not soy, it's none of these things. It's a myriad of factors and combinations, and we shouldn't be blaming one specific food group for it. There's only 2 foods on this planet I won't eat. Those 2 things are—
What's that?
Well, I shouldn't say two foods. One food and one thing I really try to avoid. The one food that I would never, ever, ever consume ever is an energy drink. Wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Nope. Just wouldn't do it. Like, I would drink a full calorie, high fructose corn syrup pop before I drank an energy drink. Nope. I was a teacher for years, and I've seen a lot of and heard a lot of stories about, silly middle school kids that think they're going to get in a competition with their friends and line up 6 Red Bulls and drink them as fast as they can and end up in the hospital or worse. I've heard a lot of stories about that. I wouldn't touch that stuff. If drinking 5 or 6 of those will kill you and drinking 5 or 6 beers won't, that just shows you how toxic and poisonous those things are. That's and the other thing I do try to avoid as much as possible is trans fat. And as long as you're eating whole foods, you really don't have to worry about trans fats too often. Stay away from the fried stuff, stay away from processed nonsense, and you're pretty much not eating trans fats. But those are the only 2 things that I try to make sure, not in the diet at all. Sugar, I mean, I work out all the time. I don't care if I have some sugar. That's not a big deal at all. I eat dessert pretty regularly and frequently. Anywho, so there you go.
Yeah. No, I learned something from that, because I can be a little bit more kind of shaking the beehive a little bit, and I don't mind, but at the end of the day, we all have to ask ourselves, what are we here for? What are we trying to do? And certainly I really care about people, and I care more about, I don't mind kind of dialing back, my straight talk if it means that it's going to help more people. Because I feel like this whole thing that we're going through, where everybody's so crazy, certainly people could benefit from being more healthy physically, right? And so anytime we have the opportunity to do that, instead of say it the way we want to say it. So yeah, no, that was interesting. I learned something from that. Thanks. And this is your first time on the show. All right, no, we got to have you back on, right? I'm already having a good time. We've heard a little bit about your journey. You were 300 pounds, out of shape, teacher, and now you're super lean. Great photos recently, right? That you shared with your progress, your recent progress.
They're mostly angles. They're angles and lighting is pretty much all of that is.
All the angles, lighting, and hard flexing. The smile is so hard to keep with the abs being this tight. It's so true, right? But it's always good to see those like people who show you before the pose and after the pose, right? Like what you have to do. But let's talk a little bit about your journey and how you went down this road where you ended up keto before keto was like in the popular mainstream, and what got you out.
Sure.
A lot of people are there.
Yeah, I'll give you a relatively brief backstory. I've always been an athletic person. I was growing up. I played basketball and baseball. I'm 6'8" too, for the listeners too. So I'm a big, tall dude. So athletics kind of went hand in hand. And I played basketball and baseball through high school. I ended up going to Eastern Michigan on a college scholarship for baseball to try to see what I could do there. Played for 2 years. Ended up hanging up the spikes. And shortly after I hung off the spikes, all of the practice practices and the weight sessions and the conditioning sessions and the extra stress from baseball became, I became a normal student, and I got a job and started working. And pretty soon I was actually even probably more busy than I was playing baseball, because I was working to try to pay for rent and whatnot. Whenever I wasn't going to classes or studying, and the pounds piled on. I didn't really have time to work out anymore. It was very busy and hectic time, 100 to 120 hours per week between the two, working and going to school. So the pounds piled on and piled on. I got into somewhat okay shape for my wedding, which was in 2005. But shortly thereafter, it went to shit. Like, me and my wife, we got married, and we were brand new and trying to figure out how to, adult, do life and make meals and stuff. So we ended up getting a lot of takeout, a lot of carry out pizzas, going out to a lot of restaurants. Didn't really plan our meals or anything. Just kind of, just didn't have a plan. Just we were normal, how normal people. And what happens when you eat without a plan and you're totally normal and just eat when you're hungry and whatever, you gain weight quickly. At least I do. I know some people don't, but I definitely do. By the time I was 30, I weighed 300 pounds. I was 220 when I started college. I was about 300 by the time I was 30. And my first daughter was born. And when she was born, that's really when the flip, it kind of flipped the switch inside of me. I was teaching school at the time. And I remember all of a sudden I had a newfound vantage point when I would meet parents, specifically fathers of these young boys and girls that I was teaching, because all of a sudden I became aware that I have a child, and one day my child is going to be the age of your child, and I will be as old as you are. I would just kind of. Yeah, and this was totally not like a judging thing. This was a magic mirror. This was a self-reflection moment. But they would come in and I would just kind of observe as I was talking to them, So how did that dad look? How was he put together? How did he present himself? How did he talk to other people? What sort of a presence did he have? Was he a strong person, a walkover? Was he, all of a sudden I became aware of these things. I had never started thinking about them before. And I realized, if you keep this up, I had kids whose dad, I had one student, gosh, it was terrible. His dad, he got news that his dad had a heart attack while he was driving home from work and wrecked his car into a telephone pole. Oh man. It was holy shit. And it was blowing my mind. And my own mortality is all of a sudden all in my head. And I was like, I got to do something, right? So one of the first things I did, we're talking about low carb dogma. Rick Coughlin was I'll mention him on here because he listens to all my podcasts and he'll get a real kick out of it, I'm sure. Rick Coughlin was one of my coworkers. And I saw him post on Facebook about a documentary he had watched. Now, all of a sudden, alarm bells should be going off in your head, right? Nutrition documentary, run. But when I was 30, that's not what I was thinking. I didn't know anything about nutrition. And it was called Fathead, okay? And it was by a guy named Tom Naughton. And it's fatheadmovie.com if you want to go to the website. I can't hate on the website because this sent me down the rabbit hole. This was it. This one thing. And I got onto Amazon and I ordered the DVD because there was no such thing as Netflix streaming or Amazon Prime or anything like that. The DVD came and I watched it. And it was complete low carb, dogmatic bullshit about the insulin theory and about how when you eat carbohydrates, your insulin spikes. When your insulin spikes to storage hormone, you can't lose fat and blah, 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 blah. And your body is going to go into fat storage mode and it's going to wait till your blood sugar comes out, right? It's a low carb dogma. We've all kind of heard this. This is the insulin hypothesis that has been debunked everywhere. But I didn't know anything about an insulin hypothesis. And I didn't know anything about self-improvement Twitter or who to follow. So I bought it, man. Hook, line, and sinker. I watched this documentary and this is going to be the way. So that's what, I was like, I can't eat any sugar at all. That's for sure. And I need to really limit my carbs. And I got obsessive with it, man. It was bad. I have an obsessive personality just in general. If I see something that excites me, I run with it. I think that's honestly part of the reason why I've been successful with online business. But it worked. Now, this as a nutrition guy or whatever, as a coach, right? What's going to happen if you go zero carb?
You're going to
lose a shit ton of weight.
Yeah.
Fast. And that's not because you're losing a shit ton of fat. It's like, especially if you're eating lots of calories, it's because every carbohydrate that you eat that comes into your system is going to bring 3 to 4 grams of water weight right along with it. So, if you are not watching your carbs at all, you could be eating 300 or 400 grams of carbs per day, which, you could be taking in 2 to 3 pounds of water per day just via carbohydrate intake, and you're just unaware of it, right? So when you stop that, all of a sudden, 7-8 pounds, whoosh, in like 4 or 5 days. And you're like, this is it. And that happened to me. I got that like immediate feedback and that immediate dopamine hit. And that's what gets people in that insular thinking, in that echo chamber. And that's really difficult to get out of. Think about all the confirmation bias that just happened in your head, right? I've struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled. And I watched this bullshit documentary that I don't know is bullshit. And then all of a sudden I lost 9 pounds like in a week. So like, talk about motivating. So I held on to that dogma for about 5 months. And I will tell you, I will be honest, I lost a lot of weight. Went from like 300 to, I think I got down to like 220 or 225 or so. I was pretty lean, but I was not healthy.
Wow.
I was not healthy.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, my energy levels were shot. I was working out in the gym. My performance went from like being able to like do, I remember specifically, I used to be able to do like 120 pounds with like additional weight on a chin up. And like that, like all of a sudden I could only do like 3 or 4 regular chin-ups without extra weight. Like, I was losing, I know I was losing muscle mass. I wasn't really tracking it because I wasn't into fitness the way I am now, but I know I was losing muscle mass. I also, my immune system was completely shot. I remember I got a cold, and I remember it took me like 6-7 weeks to get over a simple cold. And I felt so terrible. And I still was like refusing to eat carbs. I was refusing. I was like, I lost 70 pounds. I refuse to eat carbs. No. And it didn't dawn on me that I was completely screwing my metabolic profile. I had no libido at all. Just wasn't even interested in anything related to sex whatsoever. I mean, these should have all been red flags, but I didn't give a shit. I had lost 70 pounds, and I remember, I forget what actually caused me to go, all right, dude, start eating some. At one point in the comments section of Fathead, the blog, because after I watched the movie, there's a blog, and I'm reading all the blog, buying it all hook, line, and sinker, and in the comments section, someone mentioned, hey, have you ever tried intermittent fasting along with it? Because I was like kind of stuck and like, I was feeling like crap and whatever. You ever tried intermittent fasting on top of it? And it said, this guy from Sweden named Martin Birkin has this website called Lean Gains. I'm not sure, have you ever heard of Lean Gains?
Oh yeah, sure. Lean Gains.
Yeah. It was very, very popular like 10 years ago. The Hodge twins, who are all political now, they were big Lean Gain fans, and they were like doing their bodybuilding videos and stuff. So I was like, okay. And I started looking at that, and Martin Birkin and Hodge twins and everybody else that was really popular with the fasting at the time, they were talking about the importance of carbs, and you need to eat carbs. So I slowly started eating carbs. Like I started cycling macros, right? Started eating carbs on my workout days only. And it was just like strength, boom, through the roof. Energy, boom, through the roof. Guess what happened to fat loss? Started accelerating again. I'm sure I was fixing my hormonal profile a little bit. My testosterone probably came back a little bit, right? Some of the stress, the cortisol was lifted off of me because I was getting, more food and more energy in. And then that was what really got me questioning my own thinking. That was the first time I was like, in the world of fitness and nutrition, I was like, I really was entrenched in that dogma. Like I was. And now that I was on the other side of it, now all of a sudden I'm starting to realize like other people are entrenched in these dogmas too. Other people they have to, if it happened to me, it has to be happening to thousands, if not millions of other people that are out there that are confused about nutrition and are just stuck in these echo chambers and are like, they're always super loud in those echo chambers, but like privately, they're probably, I'm not losing any weight. I'm really not,
Yeah,
but they'll never admit that to everybody else. They won't. You only hear
not in
from
public.
From those amazing before, I'm carnivore and I lost 120 pounds and I kept it off for 4 years. And everyone goes, yes, follow that guy. But you don't, like, of the 5,000 people that just hearted that little tweet, you don't hear about the 4,500 people that are struggling mightily on this diet and there's zero chance of it ever succeeding. You don't hear about those people,
You got to join the forum, like not forums, but I joined a couple of private Facebook groups, and just to see what people were saying. And I remember this one guy who's like, I lost 50 pounds on keto and it was awesome. But then I switched to carnivore because he was trying to take it up a notch, right?
Yeah.
So keto,
yeah.
right? High fat, but you're still eating other things. And then now you go carnivore, and he gained like 30 pounds back, and he was so dumbfounded by it. Well, yeah, I mean, you start having like, I don't know, like huge ribeye steaks, and
you're eating 5,000 calories a day, and
yeah, of just steak, and you cook it in butter, right? Comes back.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, what you just said there, that's another big issue, a big reason why I don't like these echo chambers, and even though I don't like them, I try not to like really talk shit about them. I might throw a vegan or keto or carnivore little zinger out there from time to time, but I won't like completely vilify these things, because I don't want to turn someone off, like who really needs to hear from someone that's like a little bit more balanced. A lot of times when you're in these echo chambers, and this happened to me, right? I just told my story. So originally I was keto, right? For me, it was just avoiding all sugar. I was keto. It stopped working. What's my next thought? Let's go to something else more extreme. Now I'm going to combine keto with fasting and only eat 2 meals per day. And eventually that's going to stop working. And then what are you going to do? OMAD, 1 meal a day. That's it. I'm going to do 1 meal a day. Oh, no, let's go carnivore. Carnivore, 1 meal a day. That's it. The answer to, if you were trying something extreme and it is not working, the answer is not make it extremer. Like that is not, and I know that's not a word. I'm messing around with the wordplay there, but yeah, I mean, like, and that's the kind of thinking that you get caught up in. Moderation is hard, man. There's nuance, there's gray. It's difficult.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Someone actually asked on Twitter when I said that we were going to do an interview. They wanted to know about like how what we do is similar, how what we do is different. And that might be good for a different interview. But I think the main thing that you and I have in common is that we start teaching people what I call the facts about food, or the truth about food. And there's so much, and it's so loaded when you say something like that. But what I always do is I just show them the numbers, because in our field, right, in our area, people will say so many things. Like you have some great graphics. Like people will say peanuts or peanut butter is a great source of protein. But that's a qualitative thing to say. It's not quantitative. It's not really, I mean, it depends on how you define great. If it's like 1 gram of protein, or you probably know how many grams of protein are in a tablespoon of peanut butter.
I think it's like 7.
Do you remember?
Actually, it's about 7. I think it's
7
not
compared
a lot.
To,
yeah,
right. It's not a lot compared to the fat.
I believe fat is like 14 or 16, and obviously fat has 9 calories per gram instead of 4 calories per gram. So yeah, peanut butter is like 87% fat or something like that. I just ran the numbers on one of those infographics just like a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of foods that are like this too. I mean, and and really it's because of the health halo of fat. There's this big health halo around fat right now. Everyone is just so convinced like this is a good thing for us. And no, fat is a good thing for us. Fat is an essential macronutrient, 100%. You need it for hormonal profiles, to make for sexual function, to make your food taste better. Honestly, I mean, fat is freaking delicious.
It's the most important thing there.
Yeah,
right?
It helps lots of other things too, like your skin, your hair, your nails, just your overall well-being. It's a wonderful thing, but the poison is always in the dose. Like no matter what, the poison is always in the dose. Like it doesn't matter if it's protein, carbs, fat, anything. The poison's in the dose. You definitely got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, and that comes back to your point about moderation. Moderation is hard initially, but in the long run, it's much more doable because it just is more flexible. I had a coaching call with a client just today. And the guy is a very successful entrepreneur. He's worked with a lot of big name coaches. He's done, fasting protocols and all types of extreme approaches. And then he was just telling me like, it's this is way easier than anything that I've ever done. And in terms of like, okay, how many calories are you eating per day? How are those calories distributed? How much protein do you have versus, carbohydrate and fat? Because as I may come across as someone who's like anti-low carb, I don't care how many carbs people eat. I care about, how many calories people are eating. So you teach people how to get on track of their calories and get on track of their protein. When you have someone who's like, oh, Jason, man, can't you just tell me how to why can't I just drop carbs, or why can't I do this? Why did you choose to teach what you teach in terms of helping someone wrap their head around how many calories they're eating per day and how much and the whole macronutrient thing?
Well, the main reason, and that is, as a coach, that is what I do is flexible dieting, right? So usually when someone starts, one of the first things that I'm going to do is take a close look at their estimated calorie maintenance, what their goals are, build in the proper calorie deficit or calorie surplus, depending on what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and then end up breaking that into macronutrients and giving them targets to aim for. That's generally what I will start with. And there are some people that have some difficulty doing that at first. And I know that a lot of coaches have different philosophies as far as what sort of information to give a client in order to best make them successful. And there is a fair amount of pedagogy that sort of goes on in my own head. Just because I was a teacher for 12 years, I'm kind of looking at this like through the eyes of a teacher. If someone had a complete blank slate, what is the best way to get them from point A to point B as quickly as possible? And in my estimation, from what I've seen with other students, right, you can say, let's guide them slowly along, or let's drop them in the deep end and see what happens, right? So that's usually what I try to do. I have seen that if we drop in the deep end, okay, protein, carbs, fats, I'm going to send you materials. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So I have like a how to track macronutrients video it's long and it's full of information, but I have yet to meet someone that didn't come out of that video going, I know exactly what to do. Because it's literally like a 1-period lesson plan. And I sit down and show them here's what you do about this. Here's what you do. They get done and they're like, yeah, this is easy. But sometimes there are people that still struggle. So we will sometimes go to a calorie plus protein count every once in a while, right? Because in reality, carbs and fats are fairly interchangeable as long as you're not being completely stupid and idiotic with them, right? As long as you're not trying to go keto to speed things up or no fat to whatever, right? For whatever reason you have. So I do sometimes go to that. And then there are some clients that I have just due to lifestyle considerations. They really can't track. I think most people can. And the goal when you're tracking, this is another thing too. The goal when you were talking about how difficult moderation is, 100%. Really, I've been in like the nutrition game for 10 years. I still struggle with moderation on a personal level. All the time. We all struggle with that. That is going to be a lifelong thing that I will always need to battle out of, right? To make sure to be moderate. But no, I can't just tell someone what to eat, because what macros truly are is it's a way to get a proper blend and a proper portion of the foods you're supposed to be eating, right? And the goal is not to have you track your tablespoons of peanut butter for the rest of your life. The goal is for you to do this long enough that you understand, okay, this right here has like 40 grams of protein in it. This right here, oh, that's a carb bomb. I probably don't want to touch that. This right here, I might think that this handful of almonds is a great protein-filled choice for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but because I track macros with Coach Jay, I know that that's bullshit, and I need to get a protein shake in, or maybe some beef jerky or an apple. Those would all be better choices than a handful of almonds that's going to be 300 or 400 calories, right? So it's learning and making all those little discoveries. That's really what I want for my clients, and for them to realize the most successful people that are out there, they have their meals that they love. Maybe they have 6 or 7 different lunch options that they love, right? And they can rotate through them. They've measured them in the past. They're tasty, they're delicious, they're whole foods, they're healthy. They fill them up, make them feel good, and they keep them right on track with their diet. But then that way you don't have to think about it. You don't have to track it because you have in the past. You're building your own view, your own world framework, mental framework of nutrition, how to eat, wellness, and so that's really why I just think that is so incredibly powerful to do. And I will get people that'll say, hey, I'll pay you X amount of dollars. Just tell me what to do. Create me a lesson plan. Do this. And I'll say, I'm sorry. It goes against my own learning philosophies, right? That's give someone a fish. Like I don't want to give you a fish. Like I had really, I'll tell you this too. I had clients at the very beginning, very, very beginning. And I mean, like, I was sending meal plans on Microsoft Word documents from my Yahoo email address at the very beginning. And I would make entire recipes like completely laid out. I'd make it all for clients. There you go. These hit your macros perfectly. Go for it. And I had a number of them who lost a ton of weight, were feeling great, amazing. Thanks, Coach Jay. I'm going to go off independent. Sounds good. 2 years later, they're in my inbox, gained all the weight back. And I go, well, you have your you know how to track and everything. And they go, well, no, I just used the meal plans you gave me. Can you make me some more meal plans? And that was like, it clicked in my head like, oh my gosh, I didn't actually help this person. Like, yeah, I helped them in the moment, but they didn't learn anything. So I had to just stop even offering that as a service. So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, same here. I've done quite a few different things. Gave people paleo meal plans. I was kind of more into that. Never did the keto thing. But at the end of the day, and we're talking for your benefit here, if you're in the space where you're looking for people to give you the fish, if you're reading blog posts or listening to podcasts or asking questions and asking people, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. And the thing that you need to hear, but probably don't want to hear is you got to put in the work. You got to learn this stuff. You got to stop going for I equate it to like, instead of doing the weekend certification, you need to get the executive MBA, and it takes time. But the thing is, after you get that executive MBA, you have that foundational knowledge that you can take with you so that you can create your own meal plans and not ever ask for anyone to do something like that for you ever again. And, Jason, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, but like, because it's certainly not right for everyone. Like if for you at the beginning of your journey, right after you watched Fathead, and I came to you and said, Jason, look, that carb hole like makes you fat thing, that's bullshit. Just track and let's get an idea of how many calories you're eating per day, and come up with some food choices based on the things that you already eat, but just in the proper portions. I mean, I wouldn't have reacted well to that. In fact, when I was already sold on the idea of tracking, I had a conversation with Lane Norton actually on the podcast. He's like, I told him, I'm like, man, I'm just not, this is probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, yeah, I'm just not, I was trying to do things intuitively, basically, based on what I knew at the time. But the reality is, even though I had been in the business nearly 16, 17 years at the time, I just didn't know enough of the basics to do things intuitively like you and I can probably do now. I don't need to track right now, but I'm tracking because like the veins are coming out again, right? Like you just get better results.
It works.
It works. And it's such a great thing. But coming back to my question, for those people, what are your thoughts about people, where they are? And like, I believe this is what we need to get to for most people. They don't need to track, like you said, for the rest of their life, but it's like, how else do you get that knowledge? How else do you get someone to realize, hey, it's not that you need to know the difference between a 5 and a 6 ounce piece of steak, but you have no idea if it's 3 ounces, if it's 10 ounces, if you're eating 5,000 calories, if you're eating 3,500 calories. People have no clue. What are your thoughts on like getting, whether that should be the goal for everyone? And you know what I'm trying to say. What do you think?
Well, I don't necessarily think that everybody needs a track. But I do think that the vast majority of people probably would be better served if they started by tracking than with other methods. Because in reality, what you're really attempting to do is you're attempting to eat less calories. You might not realize that's what you're attempting to do, but physiologically, calories are the main driver of fat loss. They are not the end all be all. So, people always go, oh, there's more to it than calories. Yeah, I get it. Okay, you're right. There is more to it. Yeah, there's more to it than calories. But at the same time, it is the most important factor. Maybe I know Eric Helmes does his nutritional pyramid for fat loss and body recomposition changes, and he estimates around 70% of fat loss is calories. Then probably 10 to 15% is macros. So look at that right there. There's 85% of the equation. And one of the reasons why I chose macronutrients, well, obviously it makes sense because I did it on myself. But I wanted someone to have guaranteed results. And that's really that's a big thing too.
That's what it is.
If you come to me and you say, I'm giving you my hard-earned money to follow a diet program and you follow it perfectly, you had better get the results that I claim that you are going to get. And the only way to make sure that happens is to make sure that those calories are controlled and possibly to a lesser extent, the macronutrients. Now, someone who was really kind of being, refusing a little bit or being really, really difficult, what would I say to them? I would probably tell them that I know exactly what they're feeling, like exactly what they're feeling. And what
100%.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to find a shortcut. They're trying to eliminate the hard work. Anything worthwhile doing in life is going to take hard work, dedication, and it's not going to be a quick fix. And obesity is 100% like that. If you are obese right now, you need to get used to the fact that it's probably going to be an uphill battle the rest of your life. And it's probably, even if you accomplish getting lean and staying lean and reaching your goal weight, it's always going to be something that you have to think about and pay attention to. It's never just going to completely disappear. You are not going to go back to the you of the olden days, eating whatever, whenever, wherever. You're not going to go back to that. So you need to just realize that you are now a new person, and that helps too, right? Have a new identity. I'm now a healthy person. That's who I am. I'm a new person. I'm going to eat right in the proper portions, and I'm going to take care of business. I remember, I went to keto first, and I said, okay, I'll do fasting next. And I did keto plus fasting, and then, I dropped more weight, but I got worse. As far as health went, I had less body fat, but I was not in as good of shape. All I was doing is trying to avoid the hard work. That's it. And it took me going through that. One question that we did have in Twitter today is, Jason, what differences, what would you have done differently if you could start it all over? And I want to answer that question. That question is, I wouldn't do anything differently because I learned from every single failure along the way, and it helped form the way I think about nutrition, the way I approach clients, the way I approach business, and honestly, the way I approach life. To not worry about fucking things up, just take action, see what happens, adjust, and become a better version of what you used to be. And it works way better if you just take action and try something. Just try it, but have an open mind. And make sure that you recognize when something isn't going the way that it needs to go. But when I finally said, okay, fine, I'll track. Okay. So first I started tracking protein and carbs. Those were the two. I didn't track fat. You got to remember, in my head, fat still had that health halo, baby. Fat is good. Eat as much fat as possible, right? The movie Fathead. I wanted to be a fathead. So I didn't track that. But because I was trying to eat no carbs, high protein, it didn't even matter. I'm 6'8", and I was active, so it didn't matter. And that was because of my maintenance, right? But if you're a shorter dude, right? If you're not 6'8", 300 pounds, or if you're a woman, specifically shorter, petite women, you're going to probably run into, you're going to probably run into issues, and you will probably need to track. There are some people that are going to need to track their food. And as soon as I started tracking, I made it all click, click, click. Eventually, once I realized, okay, I really need to eat carbs every single day. I'm pretty lean here, and my body can handle it. I'm not insulin resistant. I'm insulin sensitive. Insulin is not a bad thing. Once I learned all of that stuff, by all of a sudden, instead of following the fathead guys, I started branching out a little bit. Started following the Brad Schoenfields and the Alan Aragons and the Lyle McDonalds and the Lane Nortons and whoever else, right? Okay. And then I went all in, and all of a sudden results just boosh, just exploded from there. And I was like, okay, yep, I can see the benefit in this. And it was such an amazing, the changes, when I was hitting every single macronutrient, hitting those streaks and crushing the gym, it was so rapid and so fast that it was like this is magic. This is a hack. And really, as we both know now, no, it's called nutritional science.
Right, it's called nutritional science.
Like, this macro stuff is wild. Like, and yeah, man, like I got down to like 7, like when I really zoned in, I got down to like 7% body fat. And like, it was nuts. I got down to 206. That was my lightest. From 300 to 206 at 6'8".
Wow.
And I could deadlift 500 and squat 350 and bench 300. I was like training, like I was like, what is happening right now? So, and that really kind of shot me into coaching others and building the whole biz and everything. So
listen, if you've been thinking about testosterone replacement therapy because you think it's going to help you drop fat and get jacked, this is what you're really missing. Someone asked me, I put my transformation photo up on Twitter. And anyway, people asked me, like, people always ask, like, hey, so what's the history of anabolic use, if any? And are you on TRT right now? It's like, my genetics aren't that good. I'm a lazy fucker, you know, like I train, but I don't train that hard. I got a lot of injuries now too, you know, and it's about doing that hard work, like you said, where a lot of the hard work isn't even so hard because it's not hard in the way like doing the fasting protocols are hard or eliminating all the carbs are hard. Those things are like, they seem easy at first because you can just do them right away. They're fast to implement and you can get some results, but it's really about shifting that mindset and getting away from what you said, that quick fix. I've got a question for you. It just kind of came up. I want to share the dumbest thing that I ever did. So do you know who Paul Chek is? By any chance?
I don't know.
You don't know that name? Well, he's a bit more old school, a bit more, anyway, but he's the one that got me into the low carb thing and had a very paleo approach. I think he pretty much popularized it before it was paleo, right? This guy. And not as popular these days, although you'll find him on some podcasts. Anyway, but I would go out of my way to eat. If I was going to eat ice cream, I'd go and eat like full fat ice cream, like the full fat Haagen-Dazs, because I thought it was better for me fat loss wise, even though like the sorbet that has the fat-free sorbet, I thought that was the fattening thing, even though it was like 1,000 calories, like 500 calories less or however many calories less, like half the calories. What is the craziest thing that you've done or the silliest thing that you've done when you were deep in the dogma?
Honestly, it was probably what I sort of like explained earlier, where I would go grocery shopping and I would be walking around like looking at all of these different things, trying to see, how many grams of sugar were in them. And I remember looking at, I wanted to get some sausages. And so I wanted to get lower fat sausages at the time. I was a little bit aware of the calories. And I remember I looked and they had these like maple chicken, whatever the heck sauce. And it was like 2 grams of sugar. And I remember going, oh, I don't think so. Putting them right back on the shelf. Like 2 grams of sugar.
2 grams of sugar.
That's 8 calories. 8 calories. I mean, I probably burned 8 calories sneezing. What? Thinking back on it was just like, bro, like what were you thinking? But I was just so entrenched in okay, here you go. Oh man, I can't believe I'm going to tell you this. I feel like I need to like go into reconciliation or something. When I was at my worst entrenched in the dogma, I would put a couple tablespoons of coconut oil in my coffee in the morning because I was convinced that adding fat to my coffee is going to give me magical fat burning properties. I was convinced of that. It is going to ramp up my metabolism and turn me into a fat burning machine. That was very wrong. Because I remember I remember stalling, and this was before I even started doing the macros. I started stalling and I went, huh. And one of the first things that made my mind go, I remember eliminating that 200, 300, whatever calories worth of coconut oil in the morning. Weight loss picked up right like that. And I remember going, huh. Like that was like the first time I was doing this thing because I thought it speeded up fat loss. And then I stopped doing that thing. And then fat loss actually increased its pace. Yeah, and so that's I try not to make fun of butter in the coffee people too much, but I mean, it's hard not to. It's hard not to.
I was one of them too.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
actually got results from doing it.
Well, I think it's important. It's important for your listeners to understand that, we're saying do the hard work, do the hard work, do the hard work. And I did, I went through all these mistakes and wasted all this time and this and that, but I did make amazing and awesome and fantastic discoveries. And I went through the arduous process. I mean, I tracked tightly from like 2012 to 2015. And then I'd go like periods where I'd stop tracking and then I'd go back to tracking and then kind of stop tracking and go back to tracking. It took a long time. Now, 10 years later, I don't track anything. It took a very long time to get to that point, but I don't track anything because
you don't track now.
I don't track anything. Nope. I don't need. Well, I don't need to. And I'll tell you why, because over time I had made my lunches so many times and I had made my dinners so many times and my breakfast so many times that I went, okay, I know what the portion sizes are. I don't need to track. And I do have a benefit of being 6'8", 235 pounds, pretty muscular, active guy. So, I mean, like if I'm trying to lose fat, I basically know, dude, if you stick to 3 meals per day, you're going to lose fat really, really quickly. Just don't snack. Like I'm blessed where if I set, and I do this too, and I don't know if you do something, I have like a base of my food, right? I have a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. If I want to lose fat, like if I just stick strictly to that breakfast, lunch, and dinner and the proper portion sizes, boom, fat loss. If I go breakfast, lunch, and dinner in those portion sizes and maybe like toss in a few extras, right? Like if it's Mexican, I'll throw in some extra guacamole or cheese or sour cream. Notice all 3 of those things are heavy in fat. And so I might add some extra stuff on top of it. That was really cool. That sound effect that you had there. That wasn't even me. What was that? No, just kidding. Sorry. Oh, me going, notice. Never mind. Sorry, bad dad joke. Very bad.
Sounded good.
Yeah, I know, right? But I had eaten, these foods so frequently that I realized, okay, if I eat this strictly, I'm going to lose fat. If I add a few extras, I'm going to maintain, right? I could probably eat a few extras during the week and then loosen up on the weekend a little bit. Go to a social event, barbecue, a few beers, a few drinks, and I'll maintain doing that. If I want to add weight, right, if the wintertime hits and up here in Michigan gets really cold, we go hoodies and sweatshirts. So I usually try to bulk up and gain some muscle. Then I eat my base. I get some of those extras. And I don't worry about if someone says, here, do you want this? Yeah, sure, I'll have that, so I'll have even just a few more treats. And now all of a sudden I'm going to slowly gain. So in essence, the reason I'm even brought this up is because right now, like my physical, my physical condition is easy. It's simple. It's not hard. And it took years of hard work to make it that. But I am so glad and grateful that I said, do the hard work, like go right after it. Instead of trying to find a shortcut, a way around it, say, I'm going to smash it right up the middle. That's what I'm going to do and meet that hard work head on. And I'll be honest with you, Ted, the fact that I did that and got all the way through to the other side and I realized how easy it is, that sort of a mindset bled into every aspect of my life. It bled into business. It bled into relationships. It bled into, and so now when I see that hard work in front of me, I will feel the twinge of, oh shit, that's hard work. And but I'll notice it. Like I have the self-awareness to notice it in my head. And when that happens, it's like a red flag goes off and like this little angel, maybe it's a drill sergeant on my shoulder goes, Jay, that's exactly what you need to do. And you need to do it. So stop being a little bitch and get after it. And then I'll go, okay. And I'll go right after it. But I had to do that hard work to kind of develop that sort of like a mindset and discipline behind it. Because I promise you, I was the laziest human in the world 10 years ago. I mean, I was lazy. And you want to know why I chose macros and weightlifting? Because it was guaranteed results. And because I was lazy, I didn't want to do tons of cardio. I didn't want to do tons of circuits. I didn't want to run outside or I said, I want to lift weights 3 times a week for 40 minutes. That's it. I want to work out 2 hours per week, period. That's it. Because I'm lazy. I didn't feel like, especially back then, I didn't feel like doing it. But it's so funny because over time, when you do the hard work over and over and over repeatedly, and you see the positive results over and over and over repeatedly, eventually something changes inside of you. And all of a sudden, you're no longer lazy. You're now disciplined. You've become a totally different person, and you can't wait to have hard work in front of you. And man, talk about a life change if you can get to that point.
Man, you got me all fired up, Jason.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
As I'm sure everyone else. Yeah, no, it's been such a pleasure today. We gotta do this again. I feel like there's so many things that we could talk about. Like, for example, we didn't get to the whole like the influencer versus coach.
There's a lot that we can talk about.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good one. And you're a coach that we've learned from a lot of the same people. A lot of the same people help pull us out of that dogma that we were entrenched in. But man, it's been such a pleasure. Love your energy, love your vibe. If you are listening right now and you resonate with Jason, I mean, you gotta check him out at anymanfitness.com. That's his website. So anymanfitness.com, just one word straight through. And he's also at Twitter and Instagram, although he's much more fun on Twitter, I would argue. And that's at anymanfitness. Just one word, anymanfitness. Of course, we'll have that in the show notes for this episode. And Jason, I would ask you to finish off with like, what is the one thing that you hope someone takes away from this episode?
The one thing that you hope, you know what? I really do like that last little, I guess it was a bit of a monologue or tangent that I went on there. Like, fitness is hard. It is, especially if, and I mentioned somewhere in this 60 minutes here that if you're currently obese, you have an uphill battle. You do. So accept it and get on with it and let's do it. And in life, there's always just going to be hard things. Like, that's the way life is. And the beauty of it is you get to choose what's hard. You get to decide what hard things you want to do. Sometimes they're thrust upon you and you don't have control over them. But when it comes to your physical body, for most people, you have control over what happens and you get to choose what's going to be hard. Is it going to be hard to follow a diet when you're 40? Is it going to be hard to get activity in? Is it going to be hard to get to the gym even though you just worked 12 hours, you're exhausted, and all you want to do is, stop at McDonald's on the way home and eat a huge sack of burgers and wash it down with a 6-pack? Yeah, it's going to be way harder to go to the gym and bust your ass in that situation. You are correct. But you know what else is going to be hard, 15 years from now? Well, I'll tell you what, if you're the father of that student that I had that tragically ended up losing his life because, he wasn't in shape. And then that was a big part of it too. When I was seeing those parents in my school, I realized like, yo, bro, you have 2 daughters. You are walking them down the aisle. What do you want to look like walking them down the aisle? Do you want to be, a strapping 50-year-old man who is in good shape, has a masculine presence, takes care of business, or do you want to just kind of be coasting and guiding through life? You can choose to make the hard in your life, the fitness routine that you stick to religiously because you know it's what's best for you, or you can make the hard in your life when your health and your own mobility and your own choices catch up to you. Because that's the toughest part about fitness, right? Is that you are making a current sacrifice for the future you, is what you are doing. It's not really benefiting the current you. Yeah, you're going to feel good, hopefully, get like a nice dopamine and get all those endorphins going and everything. But you're making a sacrifice to benefit the future you. And I swear to you, if you make those sacrifices when you are 65 or 70, I mean, God, you'll be so unbelievably happy. And you won't have to deal with that other hard that often happens when you're 65 and 70 and you hear you've got gout or diabetes or a blockage in an artery or just some horrendous news. So I want your listeners and everyone to be the best version of themselves that they can be, just because you owe it to yourself. How terrible would it be to go through life and get to the end of it and be like, gosh, I wonder what I could have been if I would have done X, Y, and Z. I don't want any regrets. We got one shot at this rock. That's it, Anyways, I think I probably talked for too long. I tend to do that. I told you I was a teacher, right? Us teachers, man, we got to fill that time frame. We got to learn how to keep talking and talking and talking.
No, man, it was pure fire today. I've been in a bit of a mood because of I've been dealing with Airbnb stuff this morning. So your energy was really appreciated. And I know everyone else listening appreciates it as well. So Jason, thanks so much, man. Can't wait to do this again. And I'll see you on Twitter, my bro.
Rock and roll, man. Let's keep taking down all those zealots. Thank you so much for having me, Ted. It was a blast. And I know we're going to do this again.
Thanks so much, Jason. That is it for today, my friend. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I certainly did. It's always great to talk to other coaches. We can just set aside some of the more theoretical parts of how to get in shape and just talk about the practical stuff, the in the trenches, working with people, what really matters, what really doesn't. And that's where Jason and I come from. It's so much fun to talk to fellow coaches, in case you didn't get that vibe from the podcast. And I know that's going to help so many of you when you apply what you learned today. Now, I'll be talking to you on Friday, and this time it's going to be another special Real Talk Friday episode. I've received hundreds of questions from you about fitness, nutrition, health optimization, longevity, and more. And I've decided to bring back the Ask Ted segment every single month. So stay tuned for Friday, where we'll have a new listener's question episode. And we'll answer the question, how does a person who is trying to figure out all the information, all the conflicting information, how do you figure this out? How do you figure out who to listen to? It's such a common struggle. It's something that Jason struggled with. Being a coach is something that I've struggled with, but now I know how to sift through information, and I'm going to share how I approach information these days. So if this is something that you're struggling with, if you're having trouble figuring out who should I listen to, one person says one thing, another person says the exact opposite. One person may have a degree like a medical doctorate or a PhD, and the other person doesn't have a degree. Who do you listen to? People say such conflicting things. Who do you listen to? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. So have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you on Friday. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Legendary Life Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please take a minute and leave us a quick rating and review of the show on Apple Podcasts by clicking on the subscribe button on your left. Then write a sentence or two saying what you love about our podcast. Please be honest. Tell us what you think, what you'd like to hear, what we can change to make it better. It will support the show and help us to keep delivering life-changing information for you every week.